Hey everybody, John Harper, founder of Hackers Teaching Hackers, back at you with yet another HTH CTF solve video from 2024. I wanted to actually go over what in the world, or WITW, today because it looked like there was only three solves on that one. And this is one that actually probably took me way longer for me to make than it should have taken for anyone to solve. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one together. All right. So yeah, what in the world was only worth 200 points? I think I forgot to update the description. I think that's the same one I used for Haystack, so sorry about that. But essentially it is kind of the same regardless. But yeah, only three solves. No worries. So let's take a look at that. So what you would get first of all is what looks like a 7Z file. If you were to like right click and say extract here, weird, it's giving us an error. That's super odd. I wonder why. Well, we could run a file on that command or on that 7Z file and just see if it actually lines up. It's actually saying it's an MS-DOS executable. Now, typically we spend most of our time in Linux, so that just doesn't seem right. Now, I could rename it to like .exe and we could go over to Windows and see if it would work. I'm already in Linux, so I'm too lazy for that. I'm just going to assume that the creator of the CTF went ahead and did some magic file header manipulation based on this guy's past history doing this. Oh, wait, that's me. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with magic file headers, uh, you know, you will be for sure by the time you're done with some of the CTF challenges I've done. But what you can do is you can actually go in and to the Googles and you can just Google magic file header. And first one that usually comes up is this that's weird, that's new one. Gary Kessler's page is usually the first one that I run into. And so when you're in here, it actually gives you the breakdown of what the header should be for each type of file. So, if it's a MDF or EMF or whatever format file. If we were to be looking for 7Z, for example, this is what the header should be for that file type. And the reason why file is saying that it is a DOS executable is because the header is not matching that for some reason. So what we can do is we can just go into a hex editor on this, and then we can go and put that file in. And let's see what the header. Okay, so yeah, you can see the header actually starts with 4D, 5A, BC. If we were to search through here, guess what? That would line up with a MS-DOS executable. We could make a backup copy of this, but what I'll do is instead in the hex editor, you can actually save as. So, don't worry about overwriting the file that you're in, but I'm just basically, you can just type in here. So I'm just going to overwrite it, say 377A, BC, AF, 271C. Oh, it was already 27. All right, cool. So the last sets there were fine. And I'll go ahead and hit exit, and it's going to ask me to save the name. And this time I'm going to call it new.7z. That way I don't overwrite the file just in case. We'll call it something else. Cool. All right. So when we list this out, now we have a new file. I'm going to go ahead and just try and extract that file. Dash new. All right, cool. And sweet, we were able to extract it. Sweet. All right, so what came out of that was this WIM file here. And if you're not familiar with WIM files, yet another call out to Microsoft here. WIM is actually the Windows image format. And it's actually a pretty interesting format if you haven't really kind of looked into it a little bit. It's kind of like an archive, but it's not compressed, right? It's actually like it's literally an image format, like you would create like an ISO. You can mount it, and Microsoft uses it to deploy things like drivers, things like that. You can even modify them. You can add and remove files out of the out of those image files. So I'm going to close this window. I've already got a window open. If you haven't seen this, there we go. So I just left the page up, but if you just Google search, mounting that type of file, you'll see that there's a DISM tool that's built into every Windows box if you're living off the land, right? So it's kind of interesting because this is how I built it, right? I actually mounted an existing Windows WIM file. So I didn't actually create the files that are inside that WIM file, the bin images, which we haven't seen yet. But I actually just utilized the existing files. I just copied it straight out of like a Windows 11 Microsoft system. But you can mount it in Windows and then you can add files, which is essentially what I did. Cool. All right. So we have the WIM. And of course, if we file that, of course, you will get that it is a Windows imaging format. Cool. All right. I'm going to go ahead and remove these just for the sake of having things clean. Now, if you were to try and extract that, there isn't really an option, at least in this version of Kali. They're always updating this all the time. Sometimes a lot of new compression utility that can read these things. But 7Z is a magical tool. It can extract and read so many different formats. It's ridiculous. So you can actually just use 7Z to extract it. In this case, I'm going to do a 7Z extract. I'm going to call it the file name, and I'm going to export it to a folder called test. So O test. Cool. So it just dumped all those files that were in that image to test. If we open it up, we can see those in here. Looks like they're all bin images. And like I said, these are stock Windows bin images. Only thing that's standing out is, of course, Linux is looking at the file headers, and it called out this one here is a little bit different. But what we could do, of course, is we could go into that folder. We could do an ls -la on this just to see if there's any like weirdness with like times, modifications, things like that. A lot of times you can look at the modifications. If I've used any files that I've copied from someplace else, you'll be able to clue into the files just based on time. And again, there's that one file, and you'll see that it was last modified in January of 1984. Again, another throwback to Terminator, the movie, and there is no other weird modified dates. We could also, of course, something that we've shown before is we could do file, we could do MIME type and MIME type them all. That'll actually show us if the files actually are matching their formats. So when we look at that, obviously this Sony one kind of stands out a little bit, but everything else is pretty much matching. And then there's this X shared lib. Anytime you see X, it's usually something related to Linux, probably, but it certainly sounds Linuxy. You never know. But what we could do is we can then just Google search that, like, what is xlib, X shared lib? Yeah, so it's a Linux executable. So definitely standing out more and more, right? Because it's not Windows related. So just more fuel for that. You could load it up in something like Binary Ninja if you wanted to. We could also chmod plus X. So we're going to go ahead and make this runnable a lot of times. So I just do stuff like that. So now you can execute this binary. Let's see here. Cool. Let's go ahead and run it and just see what we get. Cool. All right. So I just output the message, the flag, which is HTH bin magic in a WIM. So that is the flag. Definitely building it took me a whole lot longer than it should have probably taken to solve. But again, there was only so many solves. I think it was because we released it kind of later in the CTF. So it may not have been the level of difficulty in this one, but either way, I hope this video was helpful for you, and we'll catch you next time.